Hello and happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm. I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Tom Traudt, Rhinebeck's own Tom Traudt. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Norm.
How you doing? Thanks for bringing a drink. We already we started imbibing before the show even began. And what is this that you brought?
Oh, I don't even know. It's suggested by Rhinebeck Liquor. It's
Rhinebeck Liquors. Did you tell them if they got a plug on air, like they should give it to you for free?
I'll follow up on that.
Next one's free. Yeah. Rhinebeck Liquor is the best place to buy fabulous bourbon. It's black dirt, local bourbon. Thanks for bringing it. How was your week?
It was great. We had Porch Fest this week, and the perfect fall week, actually.
Right. And have you been busy at work?
I have. Busy at work, yeah.
And you were telling me a little bit about your work. I didn't know what your work was before, like just now, before 10 minutes ago.
Right.
What is your work?
So I own a company called Hudson Valley Protection. It's a private investigation security company. And it might be confusing just by what I said there. But I have a couple of security gigs and some consulting gigs also that involve risk assessment and advising companies how to better protect themselves physically, nothing IT-wise, but so.
And so investigations and security sound like two different things.
It kind of goes hand in hand. Private investigation is sort of a general license that covers security in New York State, and you can kind of roll one into the other. I started this company. It was supposed to start with a friend of mine who was a Secret Service agent, but he went other ways, and it just kind of moved forward on my own, getting licenses, and the state needed approvals, and becoming security certifying training school as well, beyond just the PI license and the security credentials.
And what's the process to get a PI license? Is that difficult?
Yeah, you have to have a background. Mine was law enforcement. There's other ways of having it also, but mine was law enforcement, which fulfilled the state's needs, and then you took a test, and the test would qualify you for their needs to get the license.
And was it a pretty tough test? Were there classes you took to study for it?
No, I mean, you studied the general business law needs for what they need for you to, follow their standards. There's a lot of oversight from the state in both license areas. So.
Okay. And the license is from the state. It's not a national thing?
No, each state licenses themselves. Some states don't license themselves, but New York is pretty strict on it.
So if you're doing a job and it spills over into Connecticut, say, do you need to talk to officials in Connecticut?
You'll have to reach out for resources, network out of state, unless the states don't require any needs for a license, which happens also.
Right.
Massachusetts, Connecticut, or California, so on do. But, yeah. Right.
And does that happen often, that your investigations take you across state lines?
No. Well, if I'm looking for somebody in particular, for an attorney or something, if they live out of state, I can search online with my resources to find that person out of state. But if I have to have somebody physically locate somebody, then we'll have to reach outside of state to do that.
And what's a typical case where you have to reach somebody?
So most of my finding people type research PI part of the business would be from an attorney. I just kind of focus mostly with probate attorneys or attorney, and they have to fulfill their obligations to close out their probate case, I guess. And a lot of it, they need to find people who are family members of somebody who have deceased and there's a will, and quite often they are having a hard time of their own. They'll call me to find them through the way I do it.
So the probate courts, I assume they've got Google, and people probably have some experience looking on Google. Right. And then they can't find anybody, and they come to you. What special tools do you have? So
I'll have a database that I have that's very similar to law enforcement. For example, the previous case I had was somebody who had passed away but had no family members here locally, was married, but that person, the spouse died earlier. But we had to find somebody somehow was related to this person. And even though they weren't going to benefit from the will, We had in New York State, you're required to find any member of the family, generations and wise, to have them notified. New York protects people very well. To notify them, to tell them that so and so died, and you are, somehow related to this person from.
Right.
Yeah.
And either you're getting something or you're getting nothing.
Pretty much nothing most of the time. Yeah. New York's good.
What a bummer to be that person. It's like somebody knocking on the door like, hey, representing the estate of your late great uncle, third removed or whatever. And they're like, oh, they're thinking dollar signs. You're like, you didn't get anything.
Yeah. But they have to fulfill it. I had to go up generations to find siblings of the person who had died, and then find offspring,
their offspring,
and then I went up to the Spanish-American War to find somebody, and then went down to find their children's children.
This would be a very distant relative.
They don't even probably know who they are.
And is New York State's idea that somehow if these people might want to contest the will?
Exactly, yeah. You have to show due diligence that you did everything you could. To find
but once you track them down and connect them to the probate court, your job's done.
It's done, right?
Right. So you might know the answer to this. How many of them end up, do you think, contesting anything?
Probably 1 out of 10. I guess. I think.
Right. And so, what other kinds of work, investigative work?
Okay.
Does Hudson Valley Protection?
So I also do risk assessment for companies. I will do pretty large companies will look for somebody to challenge security program or physical security set up in a building that they are a tenant of. It could be a skyscraper in New York, and they retain maybe 8 or 16 floors of that building. They want to test the building owner's security program and setup of whether or not they're being protected by that building's property owners.
Okay, protected from
physical access to their floors.
Okay.
So yeah.
And so you'll go and sort of like see if you can get past all of the
right. Exactly. Right.
That sounds kind of fun.
It's kind of fun, sure. Yeah.
and so how good are you at skirting the most buildings' security systems?
I don't want to jinx myself, but about 105%.
Really?
Right.
So you get through everything.
I do.
And then
And
then you make recommendations on how they could make things stronger.
Right. I'll write a report up and make a recommendation of what the problems are. And
if you ever need somebody to go with you, somebody to be sort of, if you need somebody who looks like an artist, say, to as cover.
Perfect.
To cover, count me in. That sounds like a blast. So you write up the recommendations, and then do you help them implement it? Do you sell those services as well?
No, I don't sell anything. If they asked me, I would, but I could certainly make good recommendations of detail. And I find most of the problems are getting everybody involved in the security concepts of the building. Not just security, but the people who work in the building also.
And what does that look like, getting everybody involved?
You would want a company to reward their employees somehow, to take notice of who's looks suspicious, or somebody who's shouldn't belong to.
That's where I come in.
Yeah. To say, hey, look, this and that. And there are some companies that do that. It's actually quite interesting. One of my clients has such a good program on that. Over the past 6 years, I'll have a hard time getting into, and if I'm in it, I'll have a hard time getting out of it without being noticed.
Into their building.
Into their many buildings, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Good for them.
Yeah, very good.
And that's largely because they've enlisted all of the employees and of their tenants.
Absolutely, yeah.
In being vigilant.
Right.
And do you provide materials for them? I'm thinking of if you see something, say something.
That's
things
up to
in the subways and stuff.
Yeah, that's up to them. They should be doing that, right?
Right.
I mean, I could advise them on what to do, or how to put something in place, but I don't provide any materials or, technology.
And is there a reason why you don't do that, or it's just not part of you?
They typically want to handle what's, given to their employees or on their walls and so on. I mean, I could certainly do it, but I haven't been asked. I mean, you know.
And is it pretty much that simple? They're telling everybody, like, listen, if you see something that doesn't fit, it probably doesn't, and here's the protocol.
Yeah, I mean, they have to make a consistent effort to keep it going and not just like say it once or once a month. It has to be an everyday change of the culture of the business to do it.
Right.
You know, and some of these things are pretty important.
And what kinds of things have happened historically that make people really need this kind of help?
Well, you know, access to a building where there's a lot of private information of clients that they serve and their own information, or even access to their IT is
Gotcha.
Is you know, it's out there.
Right.
You know, even anything. I mean,
so access to the IT, that's not sort of like sneaking through the lobby guards. That's sneaking through the firewall.
Yeah, I mean, you could see the physical parts of the IT. If you have access to the physical parts of the IT, then you could probably have access to the software of it. And I've seen that before, too.
So is it easier for people to get access to the IT when they're standing in front of the machines and the servers and all that?
Right.
Then, And so do you work with cybersecurity as well?
I haven't. Usually the company has their own IT, you know, people that would deal with that, and if they would want me to, you know, advise them how I saw things and stuff. I photograph everything I do too, unless they directly tell me not to photograph things. So I'll send them in a report photographs of what I found that are an issue.
Right.
Yeah. You know, if I see a computer a mainframe in a closet that's unlocked and there's no password access required to it, that's certainly probably a priority to change for somebody.
And so have you been on jobs sort of snooping around for like the server in an unlocked closet or whatever, and have employee be like stranger danger, and drop a dime on you?
In IT specifically, or anywhere?
Yeah, anywhere where you're going doing your security check.
Yeah.
One of the employees is like, hey, security, come check this guy out.
Well, the one company did so far that has got a good program in place, they have, but every other one, no.
That must be kind of satisfying in a way.
Yeah, it is, because he's made a change in the culture.
Right.
Right.
Huh. That's great.
Yeah.
And how did you get into this kind of thing?
It started out as a small break. It's successful, you know, test. I call them penetration tests.
Okay.
And then it just kind of revolved over the years, and then larger companies were asking for it, and I had the background in it, and you've had to send them a resume of what you did, and they tested you to see if you went in and made successful tests, and now it's just revolving around and around, so hopefully it will get bigger as time goes on.
Right.
Yeah.
And I tried to track down your website.
Yeah.
But there really isn't one.
No.
Which is kind of cool.
Right.
And you said that's because it's all word of mouth.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
And so one landlord tells another and tells another.
Right. Right.
You know, you need to get. Do they say Hudson Valley Protection? They say, "Oh, here's Tom Traut's number."
Or one landlord will ask for a bigger company to do it, and they know that I've done it for them successfully, so I'll be sort of a subcontractor under that.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of cool, like private eye kind of stuff.
Sure.
And do you carry a gun often?
No.
Never.
No. You know, I'll have documentation that, you know, says that I belong for this test if it comes to that point.
Right.
For some of them, I'll go to the local police or whoever and tell them what's going on, just in case, you know. Some tests are more broader, where I will jump from location to location, but I'll have to tell, for example, the city PD or state police that I'm going to be doing this. So if you get a call of an intruder, it's probably me. This is my card. This is my ID and everything else.
And here's my phone number.
And here's the phone number of the corporate director of whatever place I'm penetrating.
Right. And do you ever have people drawing guns on you?
So far, not.
I'm knocking on wood for you. All right, well, I'm going to use this question as a segue. I mean, you, for many, many years, were a deputy sheriff in Dutchess County.
Right.
Did you have people drawing guns on you then?
Well, there were occasions, sure. We had a few incidents where we had to pull our firearms out, and never had to discharge them, but yeah, there were a couple of interesting.
That just sounds so terrifying.
Yeah.
And after that happens, I mean, imagine everybody's all hopped up and excited, and they're whatever. What is the thing that gets in the chemical? In your system?
Adrenaline.
The adrenaline is crazy. Are there things you do to like bring yourself back down, or are there?
I think today there's better resources to bring yourself down, to kind of take yourself out of the situation. But I can pretty much say in general, it's probably a certain level of mindset that police usually are asked to do things that most people don't do in this world. So somehow at some point in time we try to bring ourselves down.
And exposed to sort of PTSD generating experiences. Right. So how long were you with the Dutchess County Sheriff's Department?
I was there for almost 27 years. I was 17 years as a detective. Did a lot of cause-of-death cases, a lot of autopsies, a lot of scenes like that. So,
cause-of-death cases?
Yeah, it could be accidents or criminal incidents or things that are suspicious, and quite often we're not suspicious.
Right.
So we would attend to autopsies, and basically that would be our, the way the victim told their story was through an autopsy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good line.
Yeah. I had a benefit of having great pathologists. Michael Bodden was a New York State pathologist. I don't know if you've heard of him before. He's pretty high profile.
Okay.
He's done the OJ. He was hired by the defense in the OJ case, but wasn't used. And anything you could think of that was high profile, they'd probably go to him.
Right.
Somebody would.
And so does Dutchess kind of have like a CSI unit, or sounds like that's kind of what you were doing?
When I started, there was no CSI unit. I mentioned the OJ case, that if you remember back then, there was no CSI TV shows or anything going on that drew an interest. It was kind of like you were the crime scene guy, you're the photographer, so you go to everything that happens, and nobody else has any interest in it. But after the OJ case, it got pretty popular, and then there were TV shows, and everybody wanted to be the CSI guy and the crime scene guy, and it's just like being a chef. Who wants to be a chef until the chef shows came out,
Yeah, I never wanted to be a chef, but the CSI stuff looked very interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating.
Combining sort of investigative stuff and a lot of science and cool gadgets.
DNA came out in that time frame, so the fingerprinting and blood types and stuff like that. Once you have DNA from something, you had a pretty solid case, and it was a matter of capturing that.
So while you were a detective at the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office, DNA stuff came out. That must have just changed everything.
It did, absolutely. Yeah, and that started with OJ, right?
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you pay special attention to these cases that come up in the news? And
not really anymore. Yeah.
But do all your friends, when something hits, do all your friends text like, "Hey, you watching this case? What do you think?"
Not really.
Not really.
No.
I'm going to from now on. When something hits, Tom, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
And when you were a kid, were you especially interested in investigative things or police kinds of things?
Yeah, well, that's what was on TV back then when I was a kid. So, of course, as a kid, you grow up knowing these things. There's not many, things like computer coder type jobs back then. So whatever was on TV as a kid, you kind of say, it's the job to have, you want to do that. So
that's
just
funny.
What I tapped into.
And what were the shows that you liked to watch?
Oh, gosh. Wow. You're going to show my age now, so.
Well, whatever your
what
age
was
is.
it, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chips. Yeah, those Erica Estrada, whatever.
Erica Estrada. Chips.
Starsky and Hutch.
Oh, yeah.
Those things,
Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Miami Vice.
And what a shift that was.
Absolutely. Right.
From Starsky and Hutch to all of a sudden these like really sexy guys in a sexy place.
Right.
And Starsky and Hutch, where they were in San Francisco or someplace?
I don't know.
Seattle, somewhere out west.
Yeah, the Miami guys, Miami Vice, of course.
Yeah, that was super cool. So it was. So while you're doing this, the people around you sort of like treat you differently. Were they like when the shows came out? Did your friends be like, "Oh yeah, dude, you're Miami Vice. That's so cool"?
Oh well, for me, I didn't like to work locally when I had my jobs. I worked probably as far away as I could. I worked in the eastern part of the county, which is the Connecticut border, and other areas. Being a detective, you worked everywhere, so it didn't matter where you were. But as a patrolman, you just didn't have the uniform on locally, and people didn't really associate you.
So
which is my goal.
Yeah, you like to work not local so that you wouldn't be, investigating people you knew.
Exactly, and you don't want to be known as the guy who's the cop. You just want to be Tom Traudt.
And so were there many cases where you had to recuse yourself? Like, I can't investigate these people. It's my cousin.
No.
Or any of your cousin's criminals?
I don't think so.
Okay. Makes it out in eastern Dutchess County.
I don't have any relatives out there.
You don't. But you do have relatives here, like 3 or 4 or 5 generations of relatives here.
Yeah, I'm actually only second generation at most. My father's side here, and the first my mother's side. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But your parents met here.
They did, right, in the 50s, right.
In the 50s. And where had they come from before this?
My dad was here local. He lived in the village right next to the town hall. And then my mom came from Westchester. She was, they called themselves blue blood Italian Sicilians, and they grew up pretty wealthy. Yeah. So they were, my grandfather was a contractor, and actually...
Wait, so your maternal grandpa was a blue blood Italian Sicilian
my grandmother
in the
was
construction business.
Yeah.
And you know where I'm going with this.
Go ahead.
That's the kind of thing, if you ever watched The Sopranos, they were all in the construction business.
Right, but not in the cement business.
There was a specialty.
Right. He had his client. One of his last clients were the Esters.
Oh, the Asters.
So Brooke Astor was his last client.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
So he came in the 50s and 40s. He worked here, but they didn't move here to the 50s. So he was among the first renovators of the Astor estate.
Okay. So he came up here for work. And how did he and your mom cross paths?
So they decided to live here, actually down the street at a house they bought, about a barn with it, and moved in. And she was already graduated from Dobbs Ferry High School, and they moved in when she was probably 19. My dad was going to sign up. He was being drafted, so they met, and.
So he was being drafted World War II?
It was Korean War.
War.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he fell in love. They fell in love. He went away for a couple years.
And how'd they meet?
Sorry?
How did they meet?
They met on a blind date at a bowling alley in town.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And which bowling alley?
There was a bowling alley on Route 9 across from the fairgrounds. Right now it's Two Brothers Pizza building there, and the laundromat. Used to be if you look at it, it's got a rounded top, and it was a bowling alley back then. Yeah.
Wow. And so somebody set them up on a blind date.
Right.
And did you hear this story from them? Is this sort of part of family lore?
Right.
All right, come on, let's hear it.
Oh, that's all I know.
That's it. There's no more to it.
No, I mean, I don't know. They got pictures. I don't know.
But they met and they liked each other well enough.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And that was that.
Right. That was that.
Huh.
He was going to go to college, but instead they got married.
They got married, and so did he end up getting deployed to the
He
Korean
was in
theater?
the eastern, Germany at the time.
Okay.
So they were, watching the invasion from the potential Soviet Union at the time.
That's good.
Yeah, so.
That's safe. And so he came back. Did he get married before he went away or after?
After, yeah.
And he came back and then what did he do then?
Got a job in the post office, and did that for 30, maybe almost 40 years.
And proposed to your mom, and
yeah, not after 40 years, but
that would be a very patient mom. 40 years and 4 kids,
right?
All of them boys.
All of them boys. Yeah.
Mom ever talk about that? Like, I just wanted a baby girl.
Well, no, she didn't. She was one of 4 girls. She was the oldest of 4 girls, yeah.
So she was one of 4 girls.
She was the oldest.
And she had 4 boys.
Right.
And you've got 4 children, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Go on.
Yeah.
What's the punchline?
No.
4 girls.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nuts.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That she was one of 4 girls, and then she gave birth to 4 boys, and you're the father of 4 girls.
Right, yeah. 4 girls, yeah.
That's probably not a lot of that out there.
I don't know. 4 amazing girls, right?
Yeah. And so the 4 boys were raised around here. You pointed down the street. Did they live in Rhinecliff?
My mother did.
Okay.
Yeah, my mother did, yeah. Yeah.
And you were raised somewhere
in the village of Rhinebeck.
Okay.
Right.
And went to Rhinebeck High School.
Right.
Yep. And how was that?
That was good. It was small town stuff.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, although I had a large class, but it was a great upbringing. Yeah.
And then you went to Marist?
Went to Marist, graduated there. Well, I got employed in between. I was employed in the sheriff's office after 2 years in college, and then had to go part-time after that, and finished eventually. Yeah.
And how did you get employed after 2 years in college? To do what?
Took the sheriff's exam. Was maxing out on my student loan, so I needed some money, and it was either work or I don't know, hang out. So luckily I got a job at the sheriff's at the time, which helped me through the rest of my career in college. I always wanted to be a lawyer back then too, but I took the LSAT Law School Admission Test exam and did pretty well. But at that time, the DAs, the district attorneys, were telling me, "What do you want to be a lawyer for? We want to be cops."
Geez.
So I'm like, So anyways, here I am still. But what can I say?
And do you ever regret not following that path?
I don't know.
You ever imagine what that life might have been like?
Yeah.
How that would have played out in you?
Right. I had a good career in the sheriff's. It opened many doors, I'm going to throw all kinds of stuff. I got an opportunity, opened doors. I worked for a member of Congress for 2 years while I was a sheriff. We were offering, 2 of us, the captain and myself, were staffing a member of Congress for her protection and also doing congressional work at the same time. So, that was interesting. There was, being a detective, I was, photographer. I photographed a lot of political events and volunteered for Governor Pataki at the time, photographed a lot of his events when he was governor, and spent a lot of time with James Earl Jones. He was a big supporter from Pauling, who loved law enforcement. Went to Phoenix, was with him for 3 days.
James Earl Jones, Darth Vader?
Yeah, he's still a local guy, wonderful person. Many, many things like that. Yeah.
It sounds great. Do you ever think of writing them all down, making a book?
I don't know. Is it that good?
It's you tell me. It sounds very interesting to me, but also, how much of this do your kids know?
Oh, they always ask me for stories. They know a lot of stories, sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Write them down.
Yeah.
And then a few years, here, kids.
Right.
Wrote a little book for you.
Right.
Here's all the stories.
Sure.
And so that's nice that they ask you. And how old are these kids?
My oldest is 20, Jillian. Natalie's 18. She's in college in South Carolina, at Coastal Carolina, and my twins are 16.
Twins, 16.
Yeah.
And so they're in Rhinebeck?
They're in Rhinebeck, right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And are any of them interested in law enforcement?
I hope
criminal
not.
justice?
I discouraged that already with my oldest. She asked once. I said, nah.
But why? It sounds like it's been a pretty good gig for you.
Yeah, I don't really. There's parts of it that you don't want them to go through. It's definitely the mindset that we talked about originally. We're having to deal with things that most people don't have to deal with. And
right.
Yeah, it's not a good.
So you have to become a little harder emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what you wanted to protect them against?
Yeah. Yeah. I want them to have normal lives, normal lifestyles.
Right.
Right.
And being law enforcement is not.
No, I wouldn't say so. No.
And what
got to give them credit for doing what they all do, but they are definitely taking out of the world of, like I said, they are asked to do things that people aren't asked to do ordinarily, and it's a difficult situation to be in many cases.
Right. And one of them is a model? Is that what
One's a model. One of my 16-year-olds is doing well. She's been doing photo shoots and making more money than us. She's wonderful.
And how did that happen? Wait, are they fraternal or sororal twins or identical twins?
No, not identical. They're
okay.
Fraternal, but they're she's just got the connection. They compare her to Twiggy, so she's got this knack right now going on where she's doing well for herself.
Oh my goodness! Yeah. And what is her modeling name? So we can look her up online later.
I don't know. Does she have
I don't know. It's probably her real name.
Probably Amelia. Yeah, Amelia Traudt. She has an Instagram account. Yeah,
Amelia Traudt.
Yeah, she's on Claire's right now,
and she's signed with some fancy agency, I guess.
Yes, state.
And she gets sent out on calls and look.
Yeah, they'll call us or email my wife and ask her if she's interested in something, and as long as it's.
And do you put her on the train by yourself to go down to the city?
No, one of us will bring her down to the shoots and
right.
See how it works. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I would assert that the life of a highly successful fashion model is at least as dangerous,
right?
As law enforcement. And does that scare you?
I encourage her to make sure it's fun for her, and when it's not, just don't do it. Just get out of it. Yeah. Right.
And her twin sister, no interest in that kind of stuff?
No, she's a fabulous artist and great personality, and just I don't think she has any interest in it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And what kind of art does she do?
Pretty much everything. Yeah. She's comes home with pottery.
So are there any teachers at Rhinebeck High who were there when you were there? Teachers, administrators, any?
I don't think so. There was one that was in the elementary school briefly, but he is gone. Oh, Mr. Haywood's there. Yeah, he's there.
He was in here a couple of weeks ago.
Was he really? Yeah.
Amazingly nice guy.
He is. Yeah. Yeah.
And he was there when you were there.
Yeah. Yeah. His mom actually taught me CPR in 1976. I have her CPR card from my...
A bicentennial CPR card.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Those are worth a lot of money. So would you encourage any of your kids to do the job that you're doing now, to come to work with you doing that? It sounds like it's much more of a relaxing job.
My oldest daughter actually has helped me out in the past with social media searches and things like that. So she's extraordinary with that. So she's good. But I don't know if she has a real interest in maintaining it. So
right. Okay. Are any of them listening right now?
I don't know about now, but probably will be.
Yeah. Yeah. So this will go up online like tomorrow or something.
Okay. All right.
And then you can send them all a link. And then you can quiz them later.
Then they can write my books.
Yeah. Right. Sorry. Now you got to do that. So will you be expanding your business into other realms than investigation and security?
Probably not. It'll probably just, I don't want to make it big and unmanageable. It becomes out of control where bigger becomes, too much. It's doing pretty well for itself now.
Right.
At least maybe grow slowly if I do.
And is it just you right now?
No, I have some employees. I have a full-time security guard and a lot of part-timers and some help from guys doing some of my penetration testing.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right, which is my future job.
Yeah.
And a freelance daughter doing social media investigations.
Right. So
I'm guessing this is your first time as a manager.
Yeah, it's definitely different being a business owner.
Right. Is. And how does that suit you?
It's okay now. That's one of my things about not getting too big. I think it would be overwhelming if I got too big. Everything I do needs paperwork to follow it, and that's my downside of my business. So.
And do you have to do that? Can you hire somebody to do the paperwork?
Probably could, but then you're getting bigger, right? Then you're getting too,
but also have more time to focus on the parts that you like.
Right.
And not have to do the things that you don't like.
Right.
So how many years, would you say 25 years in the Sheriff's Department?
Almost 26 years.
27 years in the Sheriff's Department. And is that long enough to retire with?
Yeah, you can retire at 25 in the Sheriff's office now, but most police departments are 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you retired from there. Mm-hmm. And what did you think you'd do next?
I don't know. Mohawk hired me to run their safety and security program for a little while. I left there.
It seems like a beautiful place to work.
It is, and I'm still friends with many of them. It was definitely a transition from law enforcement to hospitality. So,
hospitality. But when you're doing security and stuff, I mean, it's not really hospitality, is it? I mean, are you dealing with the patrons?
Yeah,
guests,
it depends. Mostly employees and staffers and stuff.
Right. And then at some point, you decided that you'd like to hold public office.
Right. I forgot about that part.
You blocked it out.
No, I didn't. I just, yeah.
Yeah. And why? Why on earth did you decide to do that?
Well,
because you're tired of people liking you so much.
No, I had a great time being in public office. It was actually, I was still in law enforcement at the time. So, being in public office was sort of a release of issues I dealt with in law enforcement. So you would have people come with their issues, and really in life they were easy issues. You heard out what they needed to be done or needed help with, and you just tried to help people overcome them.
Right.
And it was fun.
Yeah. So you were town supervisor in the town of Rhinebeck.
Right.
For 3 terms.
3 terms.
6 years total.
Right.
And you said it was pretty fun.
It was fun. It was rewarding. Right.
Huh. Mm-hmm. I mean, but you can't solve everybody's problems all at once. Somebody's going to get left out. It seems,
you
always
can't make everybody happy.
Right. And so, what were some of the accomplishments during your tenure as town supervisor that continue on that you're especially proud of?
Well, we had the comprehensive plan and new zoning law, which was outstanding at the time for many years and a lot of money, and we closed in on that and basically delivered it to the public for public hearing so that we could have the public comment on it. And
that's a can of worms.
It was, but it was rewarding. People have a right to make changes of what the blueprint of their community is, and and there was a lot of issues that had to be aired out, and they aired out. And we had more hearings than were required by New York State, SECRA.
And at the time, what were some of the most contentious issues?
Well, some of them was the upscale and zoning, like to 20 acres that were riverfront properties that were, the owners, of course, didn't want it because it caused issues with what they had, and, they wanted less, and, but we were more concerned about the historic and scenic character of the river valley, and that was part of the original concept, and we just had to push through those ideas and help adjust certain things to help with, for example, accessory housing or things like that at the time. So that was one of the issues. Another issue was, there were concepts of traditional neighborhood developments which would create smaller, dense areas, which basically cause a fake village in a certain area. You'd have like residential properties like condos mixed with retail properties, and we didn't see the need for that here. That's more of a west, let's say a Rocky Mountain Front Range concept rather than sprawl of, plazas and stuff like that.
And I don't think we really do have that here, do we?
We didn't. We prevented that and preserved it. There was one.
Well, thank you.
Well, there was one threatened here in Rhinecliff, which was probably within eyesight of where we're sitting now. So.
And what was that?
It was a TND, traditional neighborhood development. It created density in a certain area. It would have caused damage to the traditional scenic and historic character of Rhinecliff.
So it would have been a subdivision of
yeah.
sorts?
And condos and retail and things like that to create density in a certain area.
Where was that even going to go?
It was going to go, I think it was, can I say a name of a property? I don't know.
I think so.
I think it was part of the Creed property, part of the farmland.
Okay.
Which, of course, they were against, and, it would have caused problems. We have enough things to preserve that didn't need it,
Right. And right now they're dealing with this workforce housing issue.
Right.
Do you follow these things closer than you think you would have?
Not now, I don't. No.
You're weaning yourself off.
Yeah.
A lot of therapy, a lot of time, a lot of really good bourbon.
Right. It's not, the comp plan and zoning. It was a living document. We put a plan together on the blueprint of the original concept, and then if there's changes that be needed, they can make changes if they have to, and hopefully preserving the, what we have here.
Right. Yeah. And do you know what's happening with the current workforce housing thing?
I don't.
I brought it up now. I'm curious.
I don't know.
Yeah, somebody said the other day, oh, it's just on the back burner. It looks like it's not happening.
It's a tough concept, And
I asked why, and they said, oh, NIMBY. That was the one-word answer I got from somebody.
Oh, all right.
So you're really not that interested in that. But do you live in the village?
In Rhinebeck, yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It was a joy for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of the things that people tend to forget about these positions is they're not very high paying. They're not, most of them are not considered to be a full-time job.
Right.
And I mean, it's really a gift that the person is given to the community.
Right. Any of these jobs, even state senator is not a full-time job.
Oh, it's not?
No, it's not supposed to be. They're not supposed to be full-time jobs. They're supposed to be contributions to the community and as a
But I think
benefit.
I saw their numbers. At least they're getting paid
I could agree with that.
A decent salary. More than town supervisor. And I think our supervisor just, gets 50 or 60 grand. It's not, you're like, wow, I was only getting 40. No, we don't know what they're.
No, he was getting so much less.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's right. I did it for the, it was just
you did
public service.
But still, I mean, if you see it go up, and I don't know what it is now, 40 or 50 or something.
I don't know.
If you see it go up a lot, I see. Again, God bless you, not paying attention, not getting your knickers in a twist, being pretty chill about all of that. And so, how do you think the current supervisor's doing?
She's doing good. I don't hear any complaints. She's been in it for a while. I
had to ask that loaded question.
Yeah, she's.
I mean, it seems like
it's all a sacrifice, no matter what you're making, and she's been there for a while. So.
Yeah, I don't know how long she's been there, but she came right after you.
She did, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so why? So at some point, did you decide not to run again?
Yeah, I just have an opinion that there's got to be a deadline to these things of public service, and let somebody else have a chance.
Right.
Just like the president, he's only got 2 terms. Who else?
Yeah. So did you have somebody who you thought was going to do the job very well, at least as well as you did?
Nobody could do the job as well as I. Just kidding. But there's always somebody out there. I'm not really. I didn't have anybody
in mind.
It's been a while.
Right.
Yeah.
And so at some point you just said, "Oh, I'm not going to run again." I mean, the running part just must be so tiring. And I get annoyed just thinking about that.
It's exhausting, but I was competitive in that way, and it was sort of fun. We had a good time running. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And have you always been a competitive person? Play sports in high school, college?
Little league, soccer. Yeah. Yeah, I come from a small town school. We had a soccer team that was probably, I don't know how many kids, 15 kids, and we would play Arlington and John Jay, who had more kids on their soccer team that were in our school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the current soccer team's doing pretty well.
They're doing well too.
They're in sectionals.
Right.
You know, we saw them
traditional Rhinebeck
this week playing Mount.
Right.
And then next week there's another home game, I think on Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah.
And went to the game this week. It was so much fun. Did I see you there?
Probably not.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was a blast. Like lots of friends were going to the game. One friend had a boy, a son playing in it. And so we all went out. It was just a blast watching that soccer team.
Great.
And so did this competitiveness, it's served you well running for office.
Right.
And it's probably served you well in the sheriff's department.
Right.
And would you still describe yourself as very competitive? Who were the other companies that do what Hudson Valley Protection does?
Pagonis O'Neill, Steve Pagonis. I work well with him. There's not too many. There's larger companies that do that, but there's Pinkerton, which is Pinkerton.
Sure, it's a good name.
A big name. I work with them. They call me often.
Oh, so you don't really work against these other companies.
No.
You're more likely to work with them.
Right.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So when a big company like Pinkerton hires you,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're a national firm. I'm guessing they don't have sort of local feet on the ground.
No.
What kinds of things do they hire you to do?
They hire me mostly for stuff in the city, New York City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
That's it? That's all you can say?
That's all I can say.
That sounds, again, like, wow, private eye. Can't really talk about it.
I can't.
So at some point during your tenure as town supervisor, somebody named Clinton got married here in Rhinebeck. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of press online about quoting you and having to beef up the security for that.
Right.
What was that like? Was that fun?
It was a great event. It was amazing for Rhinebeck. Probably has changed it. I know it has changed it. We had a lot of international. Let's think about it. Before the Clinton wedding, there was that oil tanker that burned and was pumping oil into the Gulf of Mexico, and we were all watching this underwater oil black fluid flowing into the bottom of the ocean. Then all of a sudden, Chelsea Clinton gets married, and we were all looking at something great. So,
right.
So for us,
it was the BP disaster in the Gulf.
Remember that? Yeah. So then. So then all of a sudden we're hosting that was called the social media event of the season, whatever.
Of the decade.
Whatever.
Yeah. And so you're in charge, I would guess. I mean, you're one of the main people overseeing all of that. There's probably Secret Service and stuff.
Yeah, there was. I wasn't overseeing them. I was working with them, meeting with them, and letting them do their thing. They're the professionals at what they do, and they do it every day. The state police were extraordinary. They had people come from all over the state to Rhinebeck, and the sheriffs offered some help out too at the time. And there was also other private companies here.
And were there arrests made around that? Or credible threats made?
No, I don't think there were any credible threats. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so if the arrests were made, it wasn't for big stuff.
No. It was well maintained by the professionals.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's nice. So, and did you get to go to see any of the nuptials?
No.
You're in the office.
Yeah, the press wanted to talk to you and see what's going on. So yeah.
Now you mentioned earlier taking when on your sheriff's department taking photos, and one of my sources who I asked for a question about you said that she thought you were in charge of all the photo processing.
I was, right. That's actually my foot in the door in detectives, was that I had experience in college with a dark room and photo processing and cameras at that time.
And how did that come about? Were you interested in photography as an art form? And
yeah, it was a college thing at the time.
Right.
And
you still have your camera?
I have a camera, but it's not working. I have the lenses and stuff.
Right. I'm guessing it was 35 millimeter film.
It was, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Single lens.
Right.
Reflex. What kind of camera did you have?
Canons. All Canons. Right. Yeah.
And you were a Canon loyalist.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
It's funny the way people feel that way about
right.
their gear.
You're out of your sync of what you do, and you're lost.
Yeah.
So.
I can't shoot with a Nikon. And what kinds of things did you shoot artistically? Do you have prints of your work?
I do. I have a little portfolio. Yeah, most of the people stuff. Yeah.
On the walls of your house?
No. Well, I had one of Rhinebeck landscape thing, but a few things I had. Yeah.
Do you still shoot anything?
No. On my phone. Everybody's
anyway.
got phones now. Who needs a shooter on the camera?
Yeah. Well, but I shoot stuff from the phone, and I don't know why.
Right.
I don't do anything with it, but you see a sunset or a beautiful ship going by on the river, or your friends,
right?
And you take all these pictures,
right?
And it's fun,
right?
It's fun taking a picture.
Right.
Do you still do that?
I do with my cell phone. My phone,
right.
Yeah. I mean, the quality of the pictures from the phones are so much more than they've ever been, and it isn't crazy.
It's
nuts. And you can change them the way you print them out. It's just all those added features just make them the way you take hours to do in a darkroom anyway. So
right.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to your kids again. Hey, make him show you all of his shots, the portfolio, right? Because that'd be so much fun for them to look through that with you. Be like, well, what were you thinking? Or this is awesome, or whatever. That'd be kids. Make them do it. So you were shooting stuff as sort of in an artistic way at Marist. And then after a couple of years, you're like, I need to start making some money. You joined the sheriff's department.
Right.
And they found out somehow that you had darkroom experience.
Right.
And I'm guessing it was from an application.
No, it was just word of mouth in the office.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did they call you?
Oh, what do you mean?
Was it like Trouty or TT or?
Well, Rhinebeck Trouty is a Rhinebeck name, or Tommy's a Rhinebeck name. So Traudt was pretty much it.
That was it in the sheriff's department?
Yeah, the sheriff would yell it down the hall, so everybody picked up on that. Traudt, so.
And was that Butch?
That was Butch, right? Yeah.
Right. And who's the sheriff now?
Kirk Imperati.
Right.
Yeah.
And how's he?
He's good. We we pretty much went up through the ranks together.
Yeah. Now my friend ran for sheriff the last go around.
Okay.
Gillian Hanlon.
Yeah, I knew Gillian well too.
Yeah. Who's just amazing, smart, hardworking woman.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and she's the one who gave me the intel on your photo chops.
Oh, did she?
Yeah. So you were sort of their developer for crime scene photos.
Yeah. I would take them and develop them, and yeah.
And do they have a darkroom right there at the sheriff's department?
Well, they did at the time. Yeah.
And no more?
No, they demolished that building, and now I don't know what to do. But there's probably all digital darkroom.
Probably all digital.
Now too.
Yeah. That's a shame. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you're not really shooting. So I was going to ask if you see the difference between digital quality and film quality.
I don't really. Yeah, so I just, everything, the quality of your camera phone is just so well today, with all the features that it offers. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Jen's got a question.
Oh.
What's your question, Jen?
I want to know. So I don't really know that much about being a detective, but when I asked you to bring real life experience to the Rhinebeck Science Foundation, could you tell everybody what you did? Because it was fascinating. My kids loved it.
It's fun.
It's STEM.
Yeah. We brought our mobile crime lab to the Science Foundation. I think the first one, right? It was the first. So the mobile crime lab was basically a trailer, a pretty long trailer, probably, I don't even know, 15 feet long or something. And it was basically everything you would have in a crime lab that could capture evidence. And, basically capturing evidence was what we did. We weren't the analysts of it. So it was capable of, taking DNA samples, blood samples, or taking a weapon or something and just able to control it and package it. A lot of evidence control, taking evidence, you have to use steps. You take a piece of evidence from a crime scene, and then it gets handed off to an evidence person, then it gets have a locker, then to an analytical place like the crime lab in New York, up in Albany.
And I imagine there's a fairly strict protocol on how they get passed from.
Cannot break any chain of that control of evidence. So these things are important in a case, because otherwise the entire case will be thrown out. Any of that broken chain will throw out the entire case. So anybody who has touched it or has handled it or has, has to justify that they had it and is all documented. And
I love that. So was that one of the things that you showed the kids in the mobile crime lab?
Yeah, so I would show them fingerprinting. We would take, I think, a fluorescent type of a powder and fingerprint, dust a place or whatever, and show a fingerprint come through a blue light. It would glow, which typically didn't happen. So you would show how to capture it and to take it off with a lift, they call it, and take that lift and mark it into evidence, and then how it would be used to identify an individual, which is basically 12 points of a fingerprint can identify one person.
Huh.
Yeah,
12, just like 12 points.
Yeah, which would be like the ridges and valleys in your fingerprint.
Right.
Nobody has the same pattern in their finger, and 12 of those different images in your pattern can prove that you are that person. And it does work.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just mind-boggling. It's so weird that nobody would have the same fingerprints.
Yeah. It's amazing to see it actually happen and then identify somebody who was actually guilty of something.
Right. And so you said you would use a lift to get
a lift is just like a sticky thing that you would use to peel off the powder of the fingerprint. It would just be a copy of the fingerprint. Ideally, you would photograph it, lift it, and then mark it and everything else. So, yeah.
Right. And so do you do any of that kind of stuff with Hudson Valley Protection?
No, we don't do that, no. Not fingerprinting stuff, no.
Right. But you do some private eye kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't do the traditional stuff that people like to hear me say, or, spousal stuff or whatever.
Oh, well, that just sounds boring.
It is, right? Who want to do that anyway?
Ugh, no.
There's other people that do that.
I think, I think spouses involved in that really want that to be done.
Yeah.
But for a job, it just seems like, ugh, I don't want to be at that point in somebody's relationship.
Exactly.
Well, so what kinds of, have you ever had to really come down on any of your kids in a legal way? Like, listen, you can't do that. That's illegal. Or you're in extra danger for.
Nah, my kids are they're geniuses and they're intelligent.
Yeah.
And, good kids.
They say they say that comes from the mother.
Yes. Yeah. You don't know my childhood background, so that's true. Yeah.
Well, what don't I know? We have 10 seconds left.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Childhood background.
Never crawled under the fence at the fairgrounds or stuff like that,
Oh, no, never. Never snuck into the fair. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. The hour has zoomed by, as I knew it would.
Has.
Tom Traudt, Rhinebeck, third generation. I guess your kids are fourth generation.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
It's been delightful talking with you and learning a bunch of stuff.
Great. Thank you.
Everybody have a happy Friday. Thanks for tuning in.